Hello, in this video, I will keep talking about weighted average cost of capital. Last class, we introduced how to calculate the weighted average cost of capital uses so-called common technologies. And in this video, I will show more examples. So the first example here is that this company, Sorenson Systems, is expected to pay a $2.5 dividend at the year end. Remember, at the year end, which means this is D1, not D0, and the dividend is expected to grow at a constant rate, so which is the growth rate, which is G, equals to 5.5%. And the common stock currently sells for $52.5 per share. That's the price today, which is P0. The before tax cost of debt. Remember, before tax cost of debt is RD. It's the yield to maturity of the debt. And the tax rate is 40%. And the target capital structure, which is the weight of capital component, is 45% of that, which is the weight of debt, and 55% of common stock, which is the weight of common stock. And in this company, there's no preferred stock. And what's the firm's weighted average cost of capital? So, we have RD here, so we do not need to calculate RD. The only thing we need to calculate, so remember the formula, weighted average cost of capital equals to the weight of debt times the return or cost of debt, RD, which is given. We do not have preferred stock. Weight of common equity times the cost of common equity. And we know these two weights, we know RD, the only thing we need to calculate is RS. And remember, we have two models to calculate RS. In this specific question, there's no beta given in the problem. So we do not need to use CAPM. We can use the DCF, discount cash flow model. So RS is D1 divided by P0 plus G, the growth rate. And we found out that RS is 10.26%. Then we can plug this RS into this formula here. And the weight for debt is 45%. The weight, the cost of debt, RD, is 7.5%. Remember, we have we will use after tax cost of debt because the interest rate has is tax deductible. And the common stock weight is 55%, and RS is what we calculate is 10.25%. Then we can find out the weighted average cost of capital for this firm is 7.668%. Next example, equity information, 50 million shares. So in total, we have 50 million shares, and each share, the price is $80. Beta is 1.15. Market risk premium is 9%, and risk-free rate is 5%. So we know that we can use CAPM model here. The debt information is 1 billion in outstanding debt. Outstanding debt, which means how many shares of debt was, I would say, issued debt amount. And the current price, so face value is 1,000 per share. Current price is 1,100. So which means this 1 billion here, this is the book value of the debt. Coupon rate is 9%. It's a semi-annual coupon bond, and 15 years to maturity. Tax rate is 40%. So we do not have the information of target capital structure. Remember, we have 3 capital structure: target, which is the best. Then if you do not have target capital structure, use the market weight. If you do not have market weight, we use book weight. Here we have market numbers. So we have market price of the stock and how many shares of the stock. Also, we have the market price of the bond. So the market value of the current equity is the price per share times the number of shares. So it's 4,000 million or 4 billion. And we can use campaign model to calculate the cost of equity, which we just plug those numbers. Again, it gives this market risk premium is RM minus risk-free rate. You do not need to subtract the risk-free rate again. You found that the cost of equity is 15.35%. Debt is the number, the book value of the debt is 1 billion, and each share of that, the face value is 1,000. So which means we have 1 million shares of that. Then the market value of that is number of shares that, which is what we get here, times current price, which is 1,100. So the market value of that is 1,100 millions or 1.1 billion. We can also find out the RD, which is yield to maturity of the bond. So it's 15 years and semi-annual is 30. This is the current market price. And it said the coupon rate is 9%, so we can find out the coupon payment equals 9% times the face value divided by 2 is equal to $45, and the face value is 1,000. Remember again, this yield to maturity is for half a year. And you need to multiply 2 to get RD, annualized RD. And we found out the weight, the total market value of the firm is 4,000 million plus 1,100 million. So it's 5,100 million. And the weight of common equity is 4,000. So for the whole market value of the firm, 4,000 million out of 55,100 million is from common stock. So the weight is 78.43%, and the weight for that is 21.57%. And then we can plug those numbers into the calculation. So remember, the tax rate is 40%. It's given in the question, and the weight of that is what we get there. It's 21.57%. The cost of debt is RD here, and the weight of common stock is 78.43%, and the cost of equity is what we get from the campaign model is 15.35%. So the weighted average cost of capital is around 13%. Example 2, the green blue just paid its first annual dividend, which is 0.87 per share. The first plan to increase the dividend by the firm plans to increase the dividend by 3.2% per year. And what's the firm's cost of equity if the current stock price is 4.78%? So basically, this is a DCF model, right? We know D0 and D1 equals to D0 times 1 plus the growth rate. and divided by current price plus the growth rate, which is 3.2%. So we found out the cost of equity for this firm is 22.1%. So the next one, the firm has the following information. So the weight of debt, which is weight of debt is 45%, weight of equity, which is WC, is 55%. Yield to maturity on the firm's outstanding bond is 4.8%, which is RD. Last year dividend is 1.2, which is D0. And the price of the stock is currently $80, and the expected growth rate is 3%. So first, we need to find out the RS to find out this weighted average cost of capital. Weighted average cost of capital equals to the weight of debt. There's no preferred stock here again, times the yield to maturity of the debt times 1 minus the tax rate. That is after tax cost of debt plus the weight of common stock times the cost of common stock. We need to know this. Use the dividend discount model. So it's 4.54%. And then we plug all those numbers to the weighted average cost of capital formula. We found out that weighted average cost of capital for this firm is 3.8%. Next one, if a firm's debt to equity ratio in the market is 1.5 and it tells you the tax rate, average yield to maturity of the bond is 10%, firm's beta. So when you see this beta, you know we can use the campaign model. And then it gives you all the projects that can be potential projects for this firm, and to see whether you should accept it or reject them. So first, we needed to find out the weighted average cost of capital as a benchmark. So which is a appropriate discount rate to apply to determine whether we reject or accept those projects. To calculate the weighted average cost of capital, again, we need to calculate RS. And again, because we know beta, we can use campaign model. RS is 13%. And the weight of common stock, this is very tricky. It gives you debt to equity ratio. So this is debt over equity equals to 1.5. So we assume debt equals to 1, which means equity equals to 1.5. We assume equity equals to 1. So debt equals to 1.5 times equity equals to 1.5. So the firm's total value equals to 1 plus 1.5. It's equity plus debt is 2.5. So the weight of common stock will be equity divided by the total value, which is 1 divided by 1 plus 1.5 is 40%. The weight of debt is 1.5 divided by 1.5 plus 1, which is the total value of the firm, is 60%. So we can find out the weighted average cost of capital. The weight of debt is 60%. It's a very highly leveraged firm. RD, which is the cost of debt, yield to maturity of debt is 10%, is given by the question. And the tax rate is 40%. Weight of common stock is 40%. RS is what we get from campaign model is 13%. So we found out the weighted average cost of capital is 8.8%. This is the required return by the investor. Which means the firm has to pay at least 8.8% to investors to attract the capitals or fund to fund the assets. So any project with a return higher than 8.8%, remember the risk return trade-offs. So this is a rate of return trade-off, and the risk-free rate is 3%. And currently, the firm has 8.8%, and it's corresponding with the beta 2. So basically, any project has a return higher than 8.8%. Those are good investment. Any project has low return lower than 8.8%, that is bad investment. So we know project A is a good investment. Project B, we reject it. C, accept, D, reject, and E, accept. This is how we determine whether we should accept or reject a firm. So the next thing I would like briefly to talk a little bit about is that the divisions and projects. Sometimes the weighted average cost of capital is not appropriate for different divisions. So if the risk-free rate is 7% and the market risk premium is 8%, again, remember market risk premium is RM minus risk-free rate. To keep things simple, we think an all equity firms, no debt, with a beta equals to 1. Then the weighted average cost of capital, because the weighted average cost of capital equals to the weight for the equity is 1 times RS. And RS is equals to 7% plus 8% times 1, so it's 15%. So because our firm uses its weighted average cost of capital, which is 15% to evaluate all the projects, which means any investment with a return greater than 15% should be accepted. If the return is less than 15%, should be rejected. So basically, which means any investment has higher return than 15%, we should accept it because it's good. However, if it's less than 15%, that is bad investment. If a project has relatively it's less risky than the firm's other assets, the beta is 0.6 with the expected return of 14%, which is here. Because the beta is 0.6 and the required return with the 0.6 assets should be 7% plus 8% times 0.6. So it's 7% plus 4.8% is equal to 11.8%. And this A returns 14%. It's much higher than 11.8%. We should accept it according to the risk. However, if we use weighted average cost of capital as a cutoff, we reject this form. This illustrates that the firm, if we use its weighted average cost of capital as a cutoff, we tend to reject profit project with less risk. The second project is a project with a beta equal to 1.2, which is here. And it offers 16% returns. With a beta equals to 1.2, the required return should be 7% risk-free rate times 8% times 1 plus 2. So the required return is 16.6%. Is greater than this 16%. So we should reject the project B. However, if we use weighted average cost of capital, we should accept it. This illustrates that a firm, if we use its weighted average cost of capital as a cutoff, tend to accept very risky and unprofitable investment. So as a consequence, through time, the firm will accept a lot of very risky and unprofitable investment and make the firm itself more risky. Then what should we do? We will evaluate the firm's different division itself, determine the beta of each division itself. So here, if the firm has two divisions, and it has a telephone company and electronic manufacturer operations. And the first one is relatively low risk, has relatively lower risk. The second one has relatively higher risk. So if these two divisions was competing for resource, the firm used a single weighted average cost of capital as a cutoff. You know, the one with higher risk tends to have higher return. The riskier division, which is this electronics manufacturing operation, would have higher return and will be the winner. So we should develop a separate divisional cost of capital. The first method is called the pure play approach. We find that one or more companies that specialize in the product or service we are considering, and find their betas and find an average. We use that average beta as the divisional beta. Then we can use CAPM to determine the proper cost of capital or rate of return for that project, for that division. The disadvantage of this approach is that sometimes it's really difficult for us to find those pure play companies. Right now, there are a lot of multinational corporations involved in a lot of industries. So one example, so we have 3 telephone firms with beta. This Bryce Purdue has beta 0.4. Cunningham has a beta 0.5. Pure Telephone Corporation has a beta 0.6. So also for electronics manufacturers, we have NPI Plus with a beta 1.1 and iButton Link has a beta 1.3. So the risk-free rate is 5% and the market return here, remember, here is market return. It's not a market risk premium, so we can find out market risk premium equals to 11% minus 5% equals to 6%. Then what's the cost of equity for each division? So the first, the telephone division, we can find out the beta as the average of those 3 pure play firms, pure telephone firms. And then the cost of capital for this division or return for this division should be this 5% plus this 6% times 0.5, so it's 8%. And for the electronics manufacturing division, the beta is the average of those 2, NPI Plus and iButton Link, and divided by 2, as the average is 1.2, and we find out the rate of return for the manufacturing operation is 12.2%. The second approach is called the subjective approach. So if the project is more risky than the firm, use a discount rate greater than weighted average cost of capital. If the project is less risky than the firm, use a discount rate less than the weighted average cost of capital. It's all determined by the CFOs, so it's very subjective. That's the reason we call it subjective approach. So for example, Apple has a weighted average cost of capital of 12%. This cost of capital reflects the cost of equity for an average project with an average risk. However, there are large risk differences among its projects. So they think that for low risk project, the cost of capital is 10%. High risk project, the cost of capital is 15%. So basically, we have this. If the risk is high, we compare it with 15%. If it's average, we compare it with 12%. High, again, compare with 15%. Low, compare with 10%. Low, compare with 10%. So our decision should be project A, compare with 15%. The expected return is 17%. We should accept it. Project B is 2% higher than its return is 2% higher than the average weighted average cost of capital, which is 12%. We should accept it. Project C is less than 15%. We reject it. Project D, we accept it because the risk is low, so we compare to 10%. Project E, we reject it. So that is the so-called subjective approach. That's chapter 8. Thank you very much for watching. And the next video, I will start talking about chapter 9.